what happens is that because we have many layers to our physical body, not only to our body, but to our mind, a lot of the time we are operating from the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is a very complex tool. The subconscious mind is created from all of the information that is within our body. So we're going to talk a little bit about a couple different things. For example, the chakra system. These are all the parts of the body which are really important to address and to pay attention to when we're talking about healing and health of the overall body. When we're talking about the overall health, we have to talk about integration of all three aspects of the self, which is, let's say, the higher self, the energetic body, the actual physical self, and the mind. A lot of times, within our current day health system, the focus is placed on one aspect. For example, the physical aspect. They say, okay, well, you got to eat right, you got to sleep right, and you have to drink a lot of water and all that stuff. But all of that is great, but all of that will not suffice. There has to be an integration with also your energetic body, because at the same time, we must connect with our body enough to have an internal guidance system to know what we need for ourselves. Because how can we know what is right for us when we're navigating our everyday life if we don't have a really good connection with ourselves, with our intuition? And then that goes into the next part of it. Because our intuition, this is our mind, what we're thinking, everything that we receive, everything that we process, and then compartmentalize within the body, either energetically or within our emotions or within the physical body as pain or suffering. That information has to be processed through a filter. And that filter is created through our energetic body, our higher self, which is what overlooks everything that happens around us. So as you can see, it's a little bit of a complex issue that we have to understand now. And I think it's a new, I don't want to say a new science, but it's a new information, a new way to look at our health. And I think we're coming into an age where we are kind of linking all the dots and trying to take into consideration that life force, life energy, chi, which scientists have been experimenting with for years now and are now just coming to an understanding that is important to implement the practices and even the acknowledgement that life force is important. Now, what do I mean by life force? Life force is basically what they call chi, or prana. It's our essence. And that energy, which is the energy that we give off as humans and we receive as humans from other people. The thing is, how can we understand how to navigate, the material world around us with this energy? How do we translate that information into something that's useful for us? And so it's important to have the consciousness within the physical body to be able to see what's happening in that connection. And as the information comes in, we can decide whether we want to, use that information for healing, or do we want to, compartmentalize it within the body. So you were talking about having that connection with the body. And what's important about that when we're talking about health is learning how to use the internal guidance system to know the emotions that come in, how to process them fully. You wrote an article recently about Louise Hay and talking about the metaphysical reasons behind illness. Louise Hay was able to outline, like a dictionary, what each one of those mean.
And I love the idea, because I feel like once you understand the symptoms and where they might come from, like you're saying, from an energy point of view, that you can start to heal those ailments or those symptoms, and that, there's this idea that we need to go see a doctor or like go take medicine or have prescriptions for certain things that we don't necessarily need to have in order to be healthy. And I think that's a huge distraction. Like, it's a huge illusion, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And that once that you can understand that you don't need all these things, and you don't need so many chemicals in your body, you can actually start to heal those ailments and those signs that, like you said, from Louise Hay and like Dolores Cannon and her daughter wrote this book called Soul Speaks. And I think she's also a doctor or a nurse of some kind, where she outlines symptoms from, having ringing in the ears all the way to cancer and everything like that are all signs or all agreements that you either experience or with your thoughts and your emotions create in a way that, like you're saying, your subconscious and your higher self is trying to send you little signs and send you clear signs, but sometimes they're very literal on what needs to be looked at or, put attention to. So then you can use that energy that you have to either transform it into a healing way, or just to acknowledge it and then be able to change it.
Exactly. So let's look at it this way. We're talking about a global issue. We're talking about healthcare as an overall thing. All of this work that these wonderful doctors have put out, this information about healing, about utilizing our own mind and body, requires the integration of those three parts in order to create health. And Louise Hay talks a lot about that. Even as a doctor, she talks about the aspects of the body, the mind, the spirit, like how we raise our vibration in order to provide a good grounding space for healing. And see, this is really, really interesting to me. And this is where we start getting into the facts of what we're dealing with in the overall condition of the world. You know that $1.5 trillion is the overall global budget of healthcare in the world, okay?
That's crazy. Mm-hmm.
Half of that, 515 billion, is just the US and Canada of that.
Wow.
Okay, and it's only 7% of the population. So this amount of in this industry that is feeding off the illness of people, it's huge. It's the second largest, business industry in the entire world. So there's really something there that maybe they know that we're not paying attention to, right? What is it that keeps us, bogs us down, keeps us in a state of constant illness, not just emotionally, but in the mind? And because the three aspects of our body are so important in order to navigate and succeed in our lives, any of those aspects that are out of alignment are going to throw us all off. And it's a process. And I think as we're coming into this, let's say the divine feminine, let's say the age of Aquarius, everybody talks about a new dimension, a fifth dimension. It is a time for integration of all those aspects of the self, of being, of authenticity, of connection. And that goes to the very molecular level of each person, integrating all aspects of our dualities in every way, in every single way, multidimensionally. So when we talk about illness here, we're talking about something much greater. We're talking about an overall illness, like sickening of the human race. So that, thinking about things on that perspective, it really makes things a little bit more serious. And even if you embody an illness or you do not embody an illness, this information applies to you, because the way that we're currently set up in our environment it's not a breeding ground for health and vitality. It's not. We really need to develop a discipline and a focus so that we can create healing for ourselves. So that goes into our health. We are talking about genetically modified foods that are affecting our body as well. They're not providing the nourishment that we need. The water that we drink is full of fluoride. I mean, there's so many aspects there that we need to kind of focus on. So we're talking about a lot of things here. And I think the number one message that a lot of doctors, and even Louise Hay talks about in the books that you're referring to, the basis of all of this is learning to connect with the body on a level where you are actually accessing your own self-love. Because all of those choices, all of the emotions that come up are a great opportunity for us to focus and ask ourselves, are we connecting with our body? Are we using our internal guidance system to know what serves us, what doesn't serve us?